Welcome into another edition of Who's Number One. I'm Trey Wingo. Look, time may not really stand still, but it sure does seem to take a long time during the frenzy of the NCAA tournament. The clock melts, the shot's in the air, your heart in your throat. Consequences? Pretty simple. One and done. See, the allure of March Madness is that so many games come down to this, the last shot. ESPN Classic now presents the 20 greatest NCAA tournament buzzer beaters of all time.
20.
Tyrone Adams, 10 seconds.
It's one and done in March Madness. You know, in the NBA, you see a lot of buzzer beaters, but guess what? There's another game tomorrow night. March Madness is a little bit different. You miss that shot, you go home.
7 seconds. Blackman from the Oregon State was ranked number 1 for 5 weeks in the regular season and was number 2 entering the 1981 tournament. In its first game, it never trailed against unranked Kansas State until Rolando Blackman drilled a 16-foot baseline jumper with 2 seconds left that ousted the Pac-10 champs 50-48.
Jack Hartman, a brilliant strategist. Who's he going to go to? His PT Peer, his prime-time performer, Rolando Blackman. Blackman wanted the rock, baby, and oh, did he deliver with that baseline jump shot.
A 16-footer from the deep right side.
When they needed the big one, they went to their bread and butter.
Here's a guy who had made his reputation through his career by hitting clutch shots, but anytime a great player hits a buzzer-beating shot to win an NCAA tournament game, that kind of pushes them up in their school's rank of legends.
19.
The Terrapins have one last shot at winning this game.
You see the Terps draw UNC Wilmington, you figured you notch that up as basically an easy victory, and then it goes down to the wire.
The tournament on the line right now. Hold it inbounds to Nicholas. 4 seconds, 3 seconds. He's across midcourt. 2 seconds, 1 second. Throws it up. And he got it! And the Terrapins win on the shot by Nicholas at the buzzer!
Defending national champion Maryland trailed giant killer UNC Wilmington by a point with 5 seconds left in the first round in 2003. Drew Nicholas took the ball and matters into his own hands, driving nearly the length of the court and swishing a 3 for a 75-73 Terps win.
It looks like they're about to go down. 5 seconds left. Drew Nicholas gets the ball all the way up the court. Dagger.
A three-pointer by Nicholas, and Maryland wins it in dramatic fashion.
A fabulous shot, and for Maryland, a nice way so that the defending champ doesn't go out in round 1 of the next year's event.
18.
UCLA was 16 points back of Iowa State in the second half of a first-round game in 1997 when Cameron Dollar ignited a Bruins comeback. He finished it off in overtime by driving the length of the floor and with 1.9 seconds left, banking in the winners 74-73.
UCLA was down huge in that game. You thought that the Bruins were finished, but they chipped away slowly, and you talk about a money player with a money name.
He was the type of a player that didn't score a lot. But, brother, when the chips were down and you needed a big basket.
He goes to the left of the court, and with 1.9 seconds on the clock, a floater, a banker off the glass, and UCLA dances with joy, jubilation for Steve Lavin and UCLA.
Even though they didn't go on and win the championship, it's a shot people remember for a long, long time. And Cameron Dollar, pretty good player, made a great player by being able to be a part of a moment like that.
17.
When you're going to win or contend for a national championship, your best player has to step up.
7 seconds left. Wallace will go all the way. Stop from 20. He hit it! Wallace a 3! Wallace a 3! 2 seconds. 1. Knocked away. SC wins! SC wins! We're going to the Green 8. They're playing for the Final Four.
Syracuse overcame a 9-point deficit in the last 2.5 minutes to force overtime against Georgia in a 1996 regional semifinal. But in the extra period, the Orange trailed by 1 with 2.8 seconds left when John Wallace, who scored Cuse's final 10 points, threw in a three-pointer for an 83-81 win.
The game's on the line, and, you know, this is the last shot, do or die. And Wallace stops, goes up for three, boom, knocks it through. That is just about as good as it gets right there.
For Wallace to score the last 10 points of the game, capped by hitting the game-winning shot, well, that was kind of the thing that told you how important John Wallace was to that Syracuse team.
It was the beginning of one of the great tournament runs by an individual player in recent memory.
Johnson dribbles for the point. 8 seconds on the game clock. Goodrich along the free throw line. Looks for somebody down low. Get it! With 3.9 seconds left, the Tigers take a 43-41 lead. And UCLA has called the timeout.
That was a great moment, especially for people that grew up in LA and went to USC. To watch UCLA get backdoored out of the tournament, that was fun.
Pesky Princeton, specialists in scaring high seeds, scored 7 straight points to tie defending champion UCLA late in a 1996 first-round game. For a change, the Tigers got more than a moral victory. With 3.9 seconds left, freshman Gabe Lewellis made a backdoor layup, a Princeton signature, for a 43-41 win, the Tigers' first in the NCAAs since 1965.
There will be a new champion in the NCAA as the defending national champion has been eliminated by the upstart Princeton Tigers.
That was the right game for an upset. You know, UCLA was just coming off a championship, feeling pretty good about themselves, and Princeton really got UCLA to play their tempo and eventually got those backdoor cuts that everyone's accustomed to seeing.
Last thing you're worried about, though, if you're a fan of UCLA on that last play, is another backdoor play, because you think they've seen it so many times. They've been burned on it so many times. You gotta guard the backdoor.
What I loved about this play, high post man caught it, he looked over his shoulder, his teammate backdoored, and when he looked back again, his teammate had popped back out and backdoored a second time, and they caught the UCLA defender flat-footed.
You knock the door, nobody's there. Who leaves after the first knock? You always knock a second time. Went back door, UCLA kid had it covered, took a step back out, did it again, presto, game over.
Masterful job of coaching, masterful job of execution. UCLA is going home early, beaten by a bunch of smart guys.
15.
All right, he'll be passed in with 0.8 of a second.
You can prepare and prepare and prepare, and then something crazy can happen.
Pass in. There's a shot.
After Southern Cal scored a basket to go ahead by 2 with 3 seconds left in a 1992 second-round game, Georgia Tech freshman James Forrest splashed the net with a 25-footer at the buzzer for a 79-78 win. Miracle in Milwaukee, it was called. Miracle indeed. Forrest hadn't made a 3 all season.
Obviously a great play. You designed a beautiful play on the inbounds to a player that's never hit a 3. That's beautiful.
You could see the last play developing, and all of a sudden out of bounds, they throw it to James Forrest, and everybody's probably thinking, why in the world are they throwing it to the big guy?
That's pretty much the last guy whose hands you want the ball in at that point, but he had one opportunity and made the most of it.
14.
DePaul, led by 2-time All-American Mark Aguirre, was on the verge of shaking its recent tournament frustration. But St. Joseph's raced the length of the court, and John Smith's layup with 3 seconds left triggered a huge upset, 49-48. It was the second straight year the Blue Devils were ranked #1 and were eliminated in their first game.
Here was DePaul, #1 team in the country, Mark Aguirre, Ray Meyer, legendary coach. A lot of people thought DePaul was a team that could win the NCAA that year. Meanwhile, I mean, come on, St. Joe's played in a little crummy field house in Philadelphia.
That first game is like the first game in the playoffs. I mean, it's a hard, tough game because you're filling everybody out, but the thing is in the tournament, you only get one game.
The entire game, DePaul just seemed kind of in a daze, like they were shocked that St. Joe's was hanging in the game.
It was almost like they had the mentality that, you know, what was going to happen wrong next.
Right prior to the game-winning shot, I know that DePaul missed the front end of a one-on-one.
Look at this! St. Joseph's has the ball back!
I think DePaul was expecting them to call timeout, but St. Joe's pushed it up the floor.
7 seconds! Look at this! Look at this! They win! Oh, St. Joseph's win! Unbelievable!
Was really one of the all-time great NCAA upsets, and they still talk about that to this day.
13-13.
If you're Florida and you lose to Butler in the first round of the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a long off season for you.
Here's Dupin. They're going to go to the rim. They're going to go to the Miller. Miller is going to put it up. It's going to unbelievable.
Florida called the play home run, and Mike Miller hit one. The Gators trailed Butler by 1 in overtime in a 2000 first-round game when Miller slashed through the lane and floated in the game winner 69-68. That buzzer beater launched Florida all the way to the championship game.
Florida probably didn't deserve to win that basketball game, but made the plays it needed down the stretch. It could have been one of the great upsets by Butler.
Butler had played a near-perfect, flawless game to that point.
Butler went to the free throw line and could have easily had 2 ends of 1-and-1s that could have easily sealed the game.
Here's Jordan with the second. It's the boat, right in the rebound. They get it out for defense.
As we see so often, a missed free throw led to Florida's opportunity to go the length of the court to hit that buzzer shot.
I think buzzer-beating shots when they beat Cinderella take on a bittersweet atmosphere.
12.
Connecticut down 1 with the ball. High dribble by Elamine. Now he goes beyond a pick from Bosco. Jumps it inside Bosco. Fade away. Jump rolls around. Falls off. 5 seconds. Rebound. Hamilton. Follow. No good. Tapped up. No good. Rebound. Grab by Hamilton. 1 second. Gets it off. Good at the buzzer. Richard Hamilton hit the shot at the buzzer. Connecticut wins.
11th seeded Washington took its only lead over number 2 seed Connecticut in a 1998 regional semifinal with 33 seconds left. Down 1, the Huskies got off 3 shots in the last 8 seconds. First a miss, then another. Then Richard Hamilton feathered in a 7-foot fadeaway as time expired for a 75-74 Huskies win.
Washington had a great season under head coach Bob Bender and had an opportunity to continue a magical run in the tournament.
They thought UConn was dead in the water, and all of a sudden they had those chances at the end.
UConn, in classic Husky form, was able to bang the boards, play volleyball up against the glass.
The ball seemed to be up there forever, and you were looking at the clock going, when is this game going to end? And finally it bounced to Rip.
1 second. Gets it off. Good at the buzzer. Richard Hamilton hit the shot at the buzzer. Connecticut wins.
It's almost as if the great ones have a clock in their head, and they know exactly how much time they have. They're never rushed. They take their time, and then they make the play that wins the game.
11.
Now, here we go. The hand of the ball. She looks, plays it in far side for a 3 from Charlotte Smith. She hit it! She hit a 3-point basket! North Carolina wins on a 3-point basket by Charlotte Smith. 60-59. The Tar Heels are national champions.
Anytime you win a national championship on the last shot of the game, it's a shot to be remembered for the ages.
Only 0.7 of a second was left in the '94 Women's National Championship game, so North Carolina forward Charlotte Smith was stroking her shot even as she was catching an inbounds pass just outside the 3-point arc. Her rainbow gave UNC the title over Louisiana Tech 60-59. Smith had 20 points, 23 rebounds.
They're down by 2, seconds ticking off the clock, game almost over.
Carolina will have it, but only 0.7 of a second to try to get off a shot.
There's certain situations where a coach will feel, we don't want this game to go 5 more minutes.
And instead of going for the tie, she shoots from beyond the 3-point arc
North Carolina wins on a three-point basket. They played for the win.
We wanted to win the championship. That's why you're there. They called a play to win the championship, and I think that's why they were able to win.
I think it really helped give a defining moment to the women's tournament because until that point, they had really been lacking that sort of play in a championship game.
10.
Larry down in the corner to Bonham. He jumps. An 18-footer is up and good. 45-30.
We had all the confidence in the world that we was going to win the third national championship and become the first in history ever win 3 straight in a row.
Two-time defending champion Cincinnati had a hammerlock on the 1963 title game, leading upstart Loyola by 15 in the second half. But the Ramblers rallied, forced overtime, and won 60-58 on Vic Rouse's last-second putback. Loyola's starters played the entire 45 minutes and committed just 3 turnovers.
I guarantee you one thing, they'll give it to Harkness when it's time.
I'm supposed to take the last shot, and we're working it down the clock. So with about 4 or 5, I went to the basket. But in the corner of my eye, I saw Hunter, who was wide open. So I flipped it to him.
I just tried to position myself to take a good shot. Thought it was going in, man. It hit down in and came right back out.
And when he shot it, I knew he had missed it. And I went to box him out, and I turned around as I boxed him out. And as I went to the ball, I saw Ross go up over Dak, and I said, oh, man.
Hunter shoots. He off the rim. Rouse gets the scores. It's over. We won. We won. We won. We won the ball game.
Nine.
A game-winning layup is nice. A game-winning foul line jumper is something else. A game-winning shot from half court, those don't happen very often.
Reed now 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Reed trying to dribble. 2 seconds, 1 second. Long shot. Got it! Got it! The game is over! Arkansas! Arkansas! Oh, man, I can't believe it!
U.S. Reed, he became a household name in the state of Arkansas as he drilled a 49-footer, a half-court shot at the buzzer.
When you loft a shot like that, it's almost like you're at a halftime contest to maybe win a new car.
With the clock almost gone and his team down 1, U.S. Reed of Arkansas fired in a 50-footer for a 74-73 second-round win over defending champ Louisville. It was part of a Skyrockets in Sight afternoon delight. 3 afternoon games, all decided on buzzer beaters the very same day, March 14th, 1981. St. Joseph's DePaul and Kansas State, Oregon State, the others.
I remember just watching it sail through the air, and then as it got closer and closer to the rim, he said, that's got a chance.
It's a shot that at the end of every practice, guys are horsing around, they shoot half-court shots, and, you know, every now and then someone will make one.
Any kid who's ever gone into their backyard and made believe they were the hero of the game, they always dream of hitting the shot from midcourt. Here's U.S. Reed living out everybody's dream.
8.
Leitner gets it into Bryant. Back to Leitner. He dribbles. Takes the shot at the buzzer. Ah! What a shot by Christian Leitner.
In a preview of what would follow 2 years later, with 2.6 seconds left in overtime in a 1990 regional final, Christian Leitner took an inbounds pass, turned and sank a leaning 15-footer. It gave Duke a 79-78 win over top-seeded UConn. The Blue Devils survived despite going without a basket for 10 minutes in the second half.
Connecticut, Duke was names that we would certainly get to know in that sense over the next decade. But that was the first time that Connecticut and Duke had really gone head-to-head.
Connecticut had been a team that seemed destined to be in the Final Four. They seemed to be one of those teams that just was going to get there because they kept doing things that needed to be done to get there.
They're about to get there. They're about to get there. And suddenly, you know, all they got to do is make one stop.
Duke has an inbounds play set up with 2.6 seconds left in overtime.
I always say the most dangerous guy is the guy who's throwing the ball in bounds.
Leitner accepts the ball from the official, gets it into Bryant, back to Leitner, takes the shot at the buzzer. Ah!
He noticed that no one was guarding him, so he called the audible for Bryant.
Leitner buried it, no doubt about it.
It's part of his legacy as one of the great college basketball players of the last 25 years.
And that foreshadowed something that Leitner would do a little bit later.
7-7-7-7.
The clock down to 18. The Hoosiers look like they're going for the last shot. Now off to Smart. Alford trying to work himself free. Smart down low to Daryl Thomas. 8 seconds to go. Off to Smart.
I can just see that shot in the corner right now. He pulls up and shoots it.
Baseline jump shot in the air. Good. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1.
You don't get any bigger than that. Because of you and your courage, really, in that situation, you're able to give your school a national championship, something that's so hard to come by.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship, and there is pandemonium.
In the 1987 championship game, Indiana's Keith Smart was benched for a stretch of the second half by Bob Knight. Responding to his angry coach's challenge, Smart got his retribution by burying a baseline jump shot with 4 seconds left to beat Syracuse 74-73.
24 seconds to go. Here is Keith Smart.
Indiana, at the time, Steve Alford was their key player. Then you're thinking that Steve Alford is the guy that's going to get this shot.
But as time ran down, Alford wasn't open, Keith Smart was open in that left corner, and calmly hit a fadeaway jumper.
Out to Smart, baseline jump shot in the air.
Keith was a 50% shooter, particularly with that shot, a short baseline jump shot, 12, 14-foot shot.
Coaches said to us after the game, listen, it won't really sink into you until you're 5, 10, 15 years removed, that when they pull up the standings and then look at 1987, you'll know that you're a champion.
Six.
When you see Digger Phelps here at ESPN, I just, talk about the ending of the 88-game win streak at UCLA. Don't talk about Danny Ainge.
And there are 8 seconds to go. Ames against Paxson. 5 seconds. Inside. Ames scores with 2 seconds. 1 second on the clock. It is all over. It is all over.
Oh, let's talk about Danny Ainge. Oh, Danny and the Miracles.
With 8 seconds left in a 1981 regional semifinal, BYU was a point behind number 2 seed Notre Dame when Danny Ainge set sail. The All-American guard zigzagged through defenders like they were traffic cones, negotiating the length of the court and finishing off the stunned Irish with a layup and a 51-50 BYU upset.
Danny Ainge was one of the best all-around athletes the NCAA has seen. He was one of those guys you wanted the ball in his hand. If he didn't make the shot, he would make the pass. Somehow he would make the play you needed to win.
Literally went 1 against 5 over 94 feet in a matter of 8 seconds to win a game.
Ainge was too quick for him. He made him look like cigar store Indians. He just weaved his way through it like a Lamborghini going through traffic.
Behind his back, between 3 players, he went coast to coast. He put a show on, threw the Irish defenders, scored, and it was all over.
And he knew when he let it go. You could see him looking around. Love me, love me, love me.
5-5-5.
When you're under 3 seconds left in the ballgame, it's usually all over in basketball.
They've got to go the length of the court with 2.5 left. Strike long pass. Bill Jenkins Crusoe for the win.
As a coach or as a player, anybody that's been on a team, you practice that stuff, all the time, and you almost never get to use it, and it almost never works.
Sykes threw a pass into the front court. Jenkins just tipped it over to Drew. He goes up with a jumper. Boom!
Fan favorite Valparaiso, trailing Mississippi by 2 with 2.5 seconds left in the Midwest Regionals first round in 1998, executed perfectly its version of basketball's tic-tac-toe. Jamie Sykes, a 60-foot pass to Bill Jenkins. Jenkins, a touch pass to Bryce Drew on the wing for a 3. Bang! Valpo, 70-69.
The coach demonstrated some ingenuity there and some guts to not try and give it to one player who then is going to shoot, but to make that extra pass to get someone a free look at the basket.
was great coaching and great execution on Valpo's to be patient in that situation and get a great shot.
The way the play was executed, it was as if those guys practiced nothing but that play from the opening day of practice that season.
Every college and high school coach practices at least a couple times a week. And if you get it to work once a year during practice, you're lucky. But you gotta have an in just in case. And in that particular case against Mississippi, it was perfectly executed and it really put Tiny Valpo on the map.
It was one of those tournament Cinderella teams. Anytime you have a 12 or 13 team win a game like that, it kind of adds to the historical significance of it.
4.
UCLA was #1 seed, and a program that had kind of been saddled with early round losses in the NCAA tournament, and this was the best team they'd had in a long time. And you're trailing to Missouri, an 8 seed, you're a 1 seed.
I just thought that, UCLA, they don't have a chance. They got to make a heroic play.
Cameron brings it into Tyus Edney. Edney with the basketball into the front court. Down through the lane. Goes down.
Top-seeded UCLA was on the brink of being upset by Missouri in a 1995 second-round game when Tyus Edney weaved and waterbugged the length of the court, went up over 2 defenders, and gave the Bruins a 75-74 survival. UCLA went on to win their first national championship in 20 years.
What I think is so remarkable about that play was the fact that at full speed, Tyus Edney went behind his back with his left hand to elude 2 Missouri defenders.
He shot over a couple of guys that were 6'10", 6'11". I still, to this day, don't know how that bank shot went in, but if anybody had that touch inside, it was him.
Shows how delicate the NCAA tournament is. If he misses that shot, that season ends in tremendous disappointment for UCLA, but that ball goes in, the magical ride just kind of takes off from there.
They ended up winning a national championship, so in order to win a national championship, you have to be talented, you have to be good, but you also have to be fortunate, and in that play, their backs were against the ropes, and they were able to pull it out.
Jim Baines giving the basketball to Burrell. He heaves it down the floor, and it is caught by George. The shot in the air. It went! The basket is good by Tate George at the buzzer.
In a 1990 regional final game, trailing by a point, Connecticut's Tate George missed a game-winning jumper with 4 seconds left. But the Huskies got a reprieve when Clemson's Sean Tyson couldn't convert a free throw. After a timeout, Scott Burrell threw a long inbounds pass, and George swished a 15-footer.
Clemson missed the free throw. Scott Burrell grabbed the rebound and as a freshman had the presence of mind to call a timeout with 1 second to play.
We got in that timeout, and the kids have recalled this, and the only thing I kept saying is, we're not going to lose this game. We've come too far. We've come too far. We're not going to lose this game.
And it is caught by George. The shot in the air. It went! And what a finish here at the Meadowlands.
That game essentially was over. For him to get the ball and being able to square up and make that shot is a miracle.
It had to be perfect execution, and the first thing was, it was a great full-court pass by Scotty Burrell.
And when you have a baseball player like Scott Burrell, and a first-round draft choice like Tate George, it does make the play a lot easier.
I still think somebody was a little slow on the clock on that one. When I watched that play, it's still hard for me to believe you could catch the ball, shoot a turnaround jump shot in less than 2 seconds.
We've played it back a million times to see, and he does do it in 1 second. And we try to have him do it in practice back here in the spring as he's getting ready for the pros. He can do about 1 out of 15 times.
2-2-2-2.
How are they going to work it? They're going to just take all the time off and set up for the last shot. Maybe take it in 5 or 6 seconds.
If we played them 20 times, I still don't think they'd win but one game. That one game.
5 seconds left to Wittenberg. Wittenberg tries about a 30-footer. No good. Step back. Lorenzo Charles slams it in. The Cinderella team has done it. The glass slipper fits.
Some people will tell you it's the greatest buzzer beater in NCAA history because it might have been the biggest upset in the championship game.
Certainly there was no way that North Carolina State could beat Houston. Phi Slamma Jamma.
Phi Slamma Jamma. they were outstanding. I mean, when you looked at the big guy inside Olajuwon and you got Clyde Drexler, 4 out of 7, Jimmy V has no shot. But one night, one day, it's anybody's game, baby. And for that moment, it was NC State's.
Tied with Houston's Phi Slamma Jamma at 52 in the 1983 National Championship game, underdog North Carolina State held for the last shot, but managed only a desperate Derek Wittenberg airball. With the ball falling well short of the rim, Lorenzo Charles leaped up and dunked over Akeem Olajuwon, and Wolfpack coach Jim Valvano ran in circles of joy.
When we came out, we were going to hold the ball a little bit and try to get the last shot.
Houston's defense will be swarming, you better believe it.
I saw Thurl Bailey in the corner, which is his shot. He didn't take the shot. He threw it all the way up to the top to Derek.
We were always taught at the end of the game that you cannot be standing there with the ball with time on the clock.
Wittenberg shoots the jumper. It's short, and out of nowhere comes Lorenzo Charles.
Lorenzo Charles slams it in. The Wolfpack has won the national championship.
I just happened to be standing up under the basket at the time, so I could see that the ball was going to fall short.
I just remember looking up at the clock, and it's saying 0, 0, 0, 54, 52, and it took until that moment to really realize what had just happened.
And who would ever forget, running around the court, looking for somebody to hug, looking for that moment, Jimmy V, a moment that will always stand out in college basketball.
Welcome back to Who's Number One and the 20 greatest NCAA tournament buzzer beaters of all time. Here's the recap.
20.
1981, Kansas State against Oregon State.
19.
2003, Maryland versus UNC Wilmington.
18.
1997, UCLA versus Iowa State.
17.
1996, Syracuse against Georgia.
16.
1996, Princeton versus UCLA.
15.
1992, Georgia Tech versus USC.
14.
1981, DePaul versus St. Joseph.
13.
2000, Butler against Florida.
12.
1998, Connecticut against Washington.
11.
1994, North Carolina versus Louisiana Tech.
10.
1963, Cincinnati versus Loyola.
9.
1981, Arkansas versus Louisville.
8.
1990, Duke versus Connecticut.
7.
1987, Indiana versus Syracuse.
6.
1981, BYU versus Notre Dame. 1998, Valparaiso versus Mississippi.
4.
1995, UCLA versus Missouri.
3.
1990, Connecticut versus Clemson.
2.
1983, North Carolina State versus Houston. 3, the shot's off. 2, it's long enough. And 1, speaking of 1, here's our number 1.
103-102 with 2.1 seconds left. Duke takes its last time out.
Two heavyweights going at it. As good an NCAA tournament game as has ever been played.
All right, Grant Hill will make the inbounds plays.
You really didn't know how it was going to end up, but you really didn't want this game to end.
Bobby Hurley up the floor with Leitner. They throw it the length of the floor. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer. The Blue Devils win it.
Considering the teams, the time, the circumstance, the difficulty of shot, it is the granddaddy of all buzzer beaters.
With Duke trailing Kentucky by 1, with 2.1 seconds left in overtime in a 1992 regional final, Grant Hill inbounded from under his own basket. Just above the free throw line at the other end, Christian Laettner caught the pass, feinted, pivoted, and put in a jump shot as soft as a baby's breath. Duke won 104-103 and went on to gain its second straight national championship.
The moment that I remember from that game is not Laettner hitting the long shot. Of course, nobody will ever forget that. But the moment that I remember was the play directly preceding it.
It goes! Sean Woods has put the Kentucky Wildcats up by 1 with 2.1 seconds left.
What a great shot to end just the most unbelievable basketball game. I thought that was it, and I guess Coach K wasn't thinking the same way. Hey, he had some other things up his sleeve.
Coach K huddles us together and looks at all of us in our eyes and our faces and says, look, guys, we're going to win.
Coach K is so great at those situations. I think we were all feeling confident.
There's no question in my mind that when we left the huddle, that group believed it could do something good.
I still wonder if Rick Pitino wonders if maybe they should have guarded the inbound pass.
We decided to play 5 versus 4 and go for the steal. We did not want to let them get an easy shot, so we were going to surround Christian Laettner.
He had 2 guys up on Laettner. One was supposed to be behind him. One was supposed to be in front of him. Instead, they both were behind him.
Here's the long pass.
I was amazed how in control Christian Laettner was.
Puts down a dribble, turns with a jumper.
To have the presence, to know that he could take one dribble and get into his shot was absolutely remarkable.
As soon as he left his hand, I knew it was good. I knew it was good.
It's one of those games where it ended in such a dramatic way that people now remember what they were doing when they were watching the Duke-Kentucky game in '92.
You just gotta love March Madness. And on the subject of madness, here are resident second guessers now to debate the merits and demerits of ESPN Classic's 20 greatest NCAA tournament buzzer beaters. Gentlemen, time's up.
Reese Davis and Digger Phelps with you. And Digger, when you think of great tournament buzzer beaters, I think Laettner's shot is not only the best tournament buzzer beater, it is the most recognizable shot in NCAA tournament history. Clearly in the place it should be at number 1 on the list.
Could be number 1, but I disagree. And the reason why is I like the shot that was taken by Lorenzo Charles. I think it was a pass from Derek Wittenberg. Yeah, right. He was an air ball, but he grabs it and throws it in. But I'll tell you why. Jimmy V had to win the ACC conference tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. And then to advance each game, they come from behind, and they're fouling teams because teams are missing free throws.
Pepperdine.
So they're like destined to get there. Now, all of a sudden, here it comes down to the last play. And there it goes. Charles throws it in, and Jimmy V runs around with nobody to hug. But the most important hug was they won a national title off that shot.
Well, Duke ended up winning a national title off of its shot, too, by Laettner. Ultimately, not right then, but they had won 2 more games. And I think that's the difference. The North Carolina State plays great, memorable. It was an accident. A great heads-up play by Charles.
Any shot made an
executed play by Duke to win over Kentucky.
Well, let's go to Tyus Edney's shot then when they knock off Missouri in the second round back in 95.
Where should that rank? Where should that rank?
I put that right up there in the top 4. I think that probably could be number 3 because I'll put Laettner at number 2 and I'll put Edney at number 3 only because he's got to make a miracle shot, banks it off the glass, it goes in, and he doesn't get the chance to play. And that was in the second round in a national championship game when they knock off Arkansas in '95. So I rate that one right there as one of the great shots to put a team into a situation to win a national title, similar to Duke.
I'll tell you the shot that ought to be number 2 on the list.
What?
Danny Ainge, 1981, Brigham Young against Notre Dame.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, it should be number 2.
Well, I want to tell you something.
What if he hadn't made that shot and you'd gone on to win the national championship? Think of how my life would have been if I had to live with you with a national championship
because the next game would have been against Virginia in a payback game in which we stole in Chicago when we were up 6 with a minute and a half to go.
What if I started?
And win that game against Virginia. But let me tell you this. I would have fired that coach right on the spot at Notre Dame. The way Danny Ainge got that ball in bounds. He's got John John Paxson an All-American, Kelly Tripucka an All-American, Orlando Woolridge deep, and they can't stop this guy.
Hey, look, let me tell you something. If you're on Ainge about living off a shot, you've been living off Dwight Clay for 30 years.
Why isn't that in here?
That's
That was
not
a
in the
good
tournament.
1974 88-game winning streak, but it led to a tournament.
It did.
It led to UCLA going down, as Bill Walton.
Yeah, Bill Walton has said that is the most miserable time he's ever had because of you.
And I appreciate that because guess what? That's a shot that's given me the job to work here today.
There you go. Dwight Clay, not in the tournament, but a great shot nonetheless. Shot that kept you going. Shot that has you with your highlighter and your tie matching. So you're saying Charles first. I say Leitner first, but great, memorable shots, both of them for sure.
Now it's time to see how you, the fan, voted on Sports Nation on ESPN.com for the greatest NCAA tournament buzzer beater of all time. Number 5, 1998, Richard Hamilton. Number 4, 1990, Christian Leitner. Number 3, 1998, Bryce Drew. Number 2, 1983, Lorenzo Charles. Number 1, 1992, Christian Leitner.
So that's it for this edition of Who's Number One. Thanks for joining us for ESPN Classic's ranking of the 20 greatest NCAA tournament buzzer beaters of all time. We'll be back to continue our countdown of the teams, the athletes, and the events that have shaped our world of sports. Until then, I'm Trey Wingo. Let the debating begin.